Welcome to Kitchen Sink Dharma, and today I want to share a few reflections about practice in daily life. And I'm going to define practice as the act of doing something regularly or repeatedly to improve your skill at doing it. And whatever it is you're practicing, whether it's a piano or a new language or anything, that's more or less how it works. Which is through repetition, we keep doing it until we get better at it. So the question here is, what are the skills that we're improving through insight meditation practice? I think it's something like this in every moment that we have that comes up for us, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant. We can either wish that moment was different or we can embrace it. We can either push it away or we can welcome it in with some mindfulness and with some kindness. So the first way is really the way of unconscious habit, particularly the habit of chronic dissatisfaction. The second way is what we're practicing, and it's the way of acceptance. It's ultimately the way of peace, and it includes responding to other beings without hatred and without any aversion, and it includes responding kindly to ourselves as well. So what we're practicing is basically being on good terms with every single aspect of our lives. You could say that we're practicing presence as opposed to absence. Now when we talk about formal practice, I'm referring here to sitting meditation, walking meditation, movement practice, prayer, chanting, and so on. And these are practices that help reshape our mental habits. They reshape the mind and the way that we respond to things. But I'm also proposing that practice is way wider than that. It's much wider than just formal practice. So, we could really start on the assumption that there's no meaningful distinction between practice and daily life. That practice is actually daily life and daily life is practice. We're always practicing something. And when I'm talking about this today, it's not a comprehensive talk. There's lots of ways of looking at practice in daily life. But here I just want to throw some ideas out. And I think much of what I'm going to talk about are things that you're already doing. Whether or not you actually think of it as spiritual practice, whether you're aware of it as some kind of practice, it's stuff that you're already doing. So this is a passage by Gary Snyder, and it's from The Practice of the Wild. And he writes, "All of us are apprenticed to the same teacher that the religious institutions originally worked with, reality. Reality insight says, master the 24 hours. Do it well without self-pity. It is as hard to get the children herded into the carpool and down the road to the bus as it is to chant sutras in the Buddha hall on a cold morning. One move is not better than the other. Each can be quite boring. And they both have the virtuous quality of repetition. Repetition and ritual and their good results come in many forms. Changing the filter, wiping noses, going to meetings, picking up around the house, washing dishes, checking the dipstick. Don't let yourself think these are distracting you from your more serious pursuits. Such a round of chores is not a set of difficulties we hope to escape from, so that we may do our practice, which will put us on a path. It is our path." So that's from Gary Snyder. And if you're bringing some care to what you do in your life, then you are practicing. And if your actions line up with your values and your aspirations, even some of the time, then you're practicing. If you're living what you know to be true, that's practice. Because nothing is a waste. Nothing. We are what we regularly do. And this moment is practice for the next one. And the next one after that. This kind word, this unselfish action is practice for the next one. So there's a few things I want to offer you today. Firstly, I do want to talk about service to other people. We talk a lot about interconnectedness and oneness and things like that. Talking about it is different from doing it. It's different from knowing it in your bones and practicing it in your actions. And it might mean doing something heroic, or it might be just the tiniest, smallest thing. But in all of these interactions that we have with other people every day, we can practice service to others. It could just be an act of kindness. It might even just be picking up a piece of litter. There's so many ways to embody interconnectedness and oneness. If we can actually manage to stay calm and cheerful with the call centre worker, even though we've been frustrated at having been on hold for 45 minutes, that is practising. That's practising kindness and friendliness. It's very powerful because it's embodied, it's real. Like I said, you're already doing it. Secondly, I want to talk about continuity of mindfulness, because this is a fast-track way to wake up. It's a way of turbocharging your practice. It's a way of waking up from our delusions if we can achieve some kind of continuity in our mindfulness. If our mindfulness is restricted to sitting on the meditation cushion, that's absolutely fine, that's okay. But it's not going to help us a lot. We won't get very far with that. There are some mindfulness courses that include identifying one routine daily activity, like cooking or cleaning your teeth mindfully, just resolving to do it mindfully. But we don't stop there. This is about every single daily activity. And Thich Nhat Hanh wrote this about washing dishes. He said, if while washing dishes we think only of the cup of tea that awaits us, thus hurrying to get the dishes out of the way as if they were a nuisance, then we're not washing the dishes to wash the dishes. What's more, we're not alive during the time that we're washing the dishes. In fact, we're completely incapable of realizing the miracle of life while standing at the sink. If we can't wash the dishes, the chances are we won't be able to drink our tea either. So even washing the dishes can be practice. Eating can be a fertile activity for practice. So mindful eating means pausing for a moment, perhaps allowing some appreciation and gratitude, and taking the time to enjoy every mouthful. All the moments of your day can be teachings. So just as we ground ourselves for formal practice, we connect with the body and the breath and we stabilize ourselves so that we have a strong base from which we can get up close to our experience. We can do the same in everyday life practice. Anytime we can just use a mindful pause and take 3 mindful breaths. Maybe half a minute in silence in the office chair or at the traffic lights or wherever we happen to be. Just connecting with the breath and the body, connecting with the present moment, grounding ourselves, just resetting our intentions. That leads me to talk about our relationship with stress. And this has been at various times in my life, it's been one of the most fruitful areas of daily practice for me. Because I can count on stress and frustration and worry and irritation to arise sometimes. They do come up. And if we're in control of our environment, if we're on retreat or if we're staying somewhere lovely and tranquil, to some extent we can control conditions. If we don't have to deal with work emails or we're choosing not to listen to the news. But normally, in our daily life, we've got all this wonderful, fertile material to work with, all this lovely, juicy stress. And the jangly, harsh reality of life, especially in the workplace, can teach us so much. So, for example, when a really difficult, afflictive mind state arises, and we recognize it for what it is, and we allow it to arise, and then we allow it to disappear again, that right there offers us a powerful teaching in impermanence. It was there, and then it wasn't. And we come to see that the half-life of negative emotions, if you want to call them that, is incredibly short. If you're not thinking about all the reasons you should be anxious or angry or dissatisfied, the emotion dissipates quite quickly, it evaporates. So here's an exercise you can try if you feel like it. Try actually generating a stressful moment. Just think about something that makes you feel angry or worried, just for a moment. Tune into the feelings in your body, maybe in your chest or your abdomen. Just those unpleasant feelings. And ask yourself, is the feeling itself angry? Or is the feeling itself worried? Or is it just a feeling? And as the thought fades away, do you notice that the feeling does as well? But neither of them actually lasts very long. And also with the larger sorrows that we have to face, the whole tragic aspects of our daily life, that's also practice. That's practice too. So, let's talk about grief for a moment. We're all familiar with grief. We all have to deal with loss and changes that we don't want and separation from those that we love. And as the saying goes, practice for life is practice for death. At any moment we can have a crisis in which our whole world is rearranged. All of our assumptions are thrown out. And of course, when that happens, we can fall into denial. We can try to return to our existing worldview. Sooner or later, that stops working. The old methods don't work. They don't play out. This is the classroom of our practice. This is a golden opportunity for growth. And it's true on an even bigger scale. This is how I see the current state that we're in the world. With everything that's going off in the moment, for a lot of people, it's primarily a state of grief. And as hard as it is, it also offers us opportunities for evolution and growth. Because the suffering in the wider world can also be seen as mirroring the suffering and the difficulty that we're encountering ourselves internally, all of us. It's the background rumble of our lives. The task here is to ask ourselves, what do I need to do differently? If I can't actually remake the world to be exactly the way I want it to be, what do I need to do differently? What do I need to practice so that I'm meeting it with a steady heart? And given that everything we do is practice, if we do it consciously, if we do it with love and care, how can we practice so that we can meet the world with a steady heart? Because we are what we do. It's not enough just to talk about these things or think about them even. It's what we do. It's all practice. Anyway, that's it. That's my talk. Thank you for listening. I hope you can join me again next week.